Fletch and Vaughan, welcome to Between Two Beers.
Great to be here.
Thank you very much.
We're very excited to have you on. Our first foursome since Jono and Ben, which I thought went quite well.
Very well.
Turns out there's quite a market for sort of 40-year-old friends who love a good chat.
Right, yeah. This is my first foursome since Jono and Ben as well.
I've had a couple since.
Have you had a couple?
Yeah.
You dirty dog.
I know.
God damn.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Without you as well.
Yeah.
I love that you've classed yourself in the 40 category, Stephen.
Yeah.
It was your birthday this week and you are only 37.
I didn't want to clog it up. 38 actually, mate.
Oh, sorry, mate.
48.
40-ish, yeah.
You know, the beard has a certain...
It's been a long 38 years.
Yeah, I'm feeling that.
Three, soon to be 4 children will do that to a man.
Oh, 4 children.
Yeah.
Oh, we're
Coming in
moving into
June.
minivan territory.
Yeah, he's in the hurt locker.
Sliding doors.
What are we?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
We haven't bought yet,
Kia,
so we're still...
Kia Sportage?
We're
or
looking at a...
Highlander, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, not a sliding door. But
Oh, right, okay.
yeah.
Fletch, I'm in your camp though as well. Like I'm kid chat. I've got so much, and then
Yeah.
I'm out.
And then you're
I
done.
have a bicycle, no room for anyone.
You get one of those little wagons. And
Yeah. For my
you always see
cat.
people towing their kids in those wagons, and you're like, you don't really value that kid too much.
No, especially the ones that the kid sits at the front of the bike.
Oh, yeah.
And like, so
over
the kid
bars.
would take the impact
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not good
Sort of
parenting.
like a kid airbag.
Yeah.
Yeah, not cool. Right, not many people know this, but the main reason we started this pod was to hype up Hamilton, and so every guest we have on has some sort of tenuous link to the Tron. We ask them if they'll be a Hambassador with us.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at you, Vaughan, because we've put together a Hambassador CV.
Yes.
That we would like to read out and then see if you're willing to. Actually, Shay, what is a Hambassador?
Just someone who's proud to represent the great city of Hamilton, doesn't shit on it once
Yeah.
they leave it.
No.
Just an advocate, really.
Yeah, big advocate.
Awesome.
Yeah, love it.
Okay, so some of these are a little bit more tenuous than others. Born and raised in the Waikato in
Yep.
Warrensville, which is close to Hamilton.
Yes.
And your parents are currently in the Waikato. So
Correct.
I imagine you sort of go near Hamilton quite a lot.
We do, yeah. And my wife's mum and her stepdad are in Raglan.
Yes.
So we kind of fork Hamilton.
You can't say that if you're a Hambassador.
No,
You can't say that if you're a
Hambassador. Hambassador. We circumnavigate. We go around Hamilton.
Yeah.
But then if we're going from one to the other, we go through Hamilton.
There you go.
So-
And that's us. Okay, so they're progressively going to get better. And worked at the generator in Hamilton.
Correct. Yes, that was my first radio job.
First?
I saw you walking down the street doing some promo stuff with those big sideburns generator years.
Yeah, it was wild. It was a wild time. It was
Yeah.
a wild time.
It was a great time.
Yeah. And here's our main piece. Met your wife, Sade, at the Outback.
That is correct. The
Which-
first time we met was at the Outback.
Was she an export gold girl?
She was an
I
export
believe she
gold
was an
girl.
export
Wow.
gold girl.
Unbelievable scene.
Full circle.
Unbelievable
Full
scene.
circle.
Can I just share a little? I had a big crush on her as well because
Did you?
I
Oh, wow.
yeah, and that's
Well, this
okay.
is
That's
awkward.
okay. No,
That's
it's not
a
awkward
right.
at all.
That's nice to
Yeah.
know.
I mean, Vaughan won.
Well, John would never let me anywhere near her. She was just a name, and he was head boy at Boys High,
right,
and I'm
her
the
brother
same.
John.
Yeah, and I'm the same year.
Oh, really?
There you go.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at the size of you and the size of John. I can't believe you were ever physically intimidated by him.
Well, yeah, I don't know how that
very
works.
delicate.
Yeah, I think it was a school hierarchy. Head boy, you've got to respect that authority. Traditional boys' school.
How did this school work? He won the sports award, and he's the most uncoordinated person I know.
Definitely didn't win the sports award. He sold you false
No,
information.
he showed me the sports award. He had the badge and the thing, and there was a photo, and his mum's like, yeah, he won a sports award. I was like, what sports? did he play?
He was the theatre guy. He was
Yeah,
the
I know.
lead in every production.
Yeah.
Not a sport to be had in that body. I
Okay.
swear.
Okay, but again,
He is-
absolutely alpha Jew
Yeah,
with
he did.
song and dance.
Yeah, he did. Totally.
Yeah. So that's the extent of it. Anyway, Hambassador?
Yeah, absolutely, Hambassador. I love Hamilton.
Brilliant.
And they need to make better use of the river. What a beautiful
Turn it around, eh?
flows. Yeah, turn Hamilton around and face the river. I've always thought that.
We've always said
Start a
that.
campaign.
turn it around.
Fantastic. Great to have you on board. Carl, you were born in the foothills of Taranaki, but any links to Hamilton?
Tenuous or otherwise?
No, again, I tried to. We avoided it when travelling from New Plymouth to Auckland. We'd go the back road.
Aotearoa.
Aotearoa,
Whara,
Yeah.
hot back on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ngarawahia,
Yeah.
and then you'd actually successfully avoided Hamilton.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Ouch.
no.
Ouch.
No, Naki, I'm a Naki ambassador.
It's
really.
still Chiefs country though, so we can sort of
Yeah.
claim that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't
It is
originally
now,
though,
no,
eh?
it was
Yeah.
Hurricanes.
Hurricanes
Yeah, it
for a
was.
while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we bombed them off. Well, brought them in. bombed off Counties Manukau.
Yeah.
I know they're still in.
So the beauty of this podcast is the guests we have often link up with other guests. And last week we had a very memorable episode with Morgan, the somatic sexologist. And she has written in to paint a little bit of a picture of Fletch for our audience. I'm just going to read.
Here we go. Jesus.
Good luck.
She knows everything.
No, it's actually really wholesome.
I love it.
She says, I've travelled all over the world with Carl. He's been my fake boyfriend since I was 16, dying with me to get a morning after pill.
That's right.
He third-wheeled on dates in Mexico and Cuba to keep me safe and would only leave once I felt completely safe with the date.
Aww.
He makes me check my tyre pressures and organise the guy to come and take tints off my car windows because I was too scared to organise myself. He'll drag me into Repco to get coolant. He is the fastest walker in the world and is so annoying and pisses people off when he overtakes them. He loves Mount Taranaki and has climbed it so many times. He's so bougie, though. He once carted up a cask of red wine, cinnamon sticks, and orange and cloves, and in the hut he made mulled wine, much to the tourist's disbelief. He doesn't show too much emotion, but he says the sweetest things to his pussy. He even called him darling and put on a high voice. He struggles to keep houseplants alive. Carl doesn't really want to get old. He asked if I'll push him off a cliff if he's in a wheelchair or starts losing his mind.
Yeah.
Is
That would be, Vaughan would agree with all of that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. Is that a fair representation?
Yeah, I'd say so. Well, I think it was, we made mulled wine in a hut first, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
We took a 3-litre goon up.
To Crosby's hut. On
Crosby's
the,
hut.
Coromandel Peninsula. And we cut
Honey.
in our own pot.
Yeah, honey. All the star anise.
Yes.
All the
Really?
you need a lot of herb. What is it?
Spices.
Spices. You need a lot of spices for mulled wine.
Yeah.
But, you know, that would
Yuletide
sum me up.
spices.
I can see
Yeah.
that.
And
Definitely
then
not a
nearly
fan
burnt
of-
down the dock hut.
We did nearly burn
Too
down
much
a
mulled
dog
wine
hut.
in it.
Did you spill boiling water all over that hut as well? And there were some tourists sleeping on the floor? Not you, Vaughan. I'm looking directly at you, Fletch.
Oh, that's another hut I was staying at. The handle broke on my pot.
Ah.
And I was carrying water and it, spilled all over the floor. Which is slightly embarrassing.
I feel like that paints a sort of a really nice, wholesome picture. But she only had one thing to say about Vaughan, and it was Vaughan shares his birthday with another radio royal who he loves, and he would be far more relaxed and fun if he just used the prostate messenger. I knew I was going to
Massager.
If he just used the prostate massager I gave him and stopped denying his true desires.
Yeah.
So there's only one
She's
key
obsessed.
question to come out of that. Who's the radio royal?
Her lordship, Pauline Gillespie.
Ah.
Yeah.
Wow, Polly.
February 20th. Yeah.
We'll leave the prostate stuff alone.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
you shouldn't do, according to Morgan.
I shouldn't or should.
You shouldn't leave the prostate
shouldn't.
alone. Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah, she's,
I'm
she
firmly on
always
board.
asks
Firmly on board.
If I've used, she got me very peculiar shaped. What is it? A vibrator?
Yeah, but it was kind of like a bent finger.
Yeah, it was
would
like
have-
a
it would
bent
have to
little
be,
finger.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is it out of the box?
No, it's still in the box.
Oh, well, if you've got no use for it, flick it over. after last week's episode, I'm all in.
Oh, you're all in.
I'm
She's
telling you, I'm
convinced
all
you.
in.
She sold you on
Yeah.
the dream.
Well,
All
yeah.
right, okay, well,
She
yeah.
did.
Between Hambassadors.
To be fair, I was always in that camp, but
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
she turned up with these crave eggs, which are a sex toy.
Have you opened
a
yours yet?
masturbation tool. Well, I brought it home and I talked to my wife. I was like, oh, how'd the episode go? Oh, good. Guest gave us a thing. What is it? Oh, it's something just to help me self-pleasure, which is okay for us to talk about.
Yeah, but you haven't
Absolutely.
opened it. You're still going old school.
Not yet.
How does a crave egg work?
It's like a cream egg, but sort of when they changed the
Used to
recipe,
be
it got all
better.
fucked up.
Yeah, it's grainy now. It's not as good. It used to be so smooth and sweet, just the right amount of sweetness.
So good.
It's a little,
Use your words, bro. Use your words.
It's a little pleasure dome that you would put your member in with some lubricant
Okay.
to replicate what might
Wait,
feel.
is there a
Like
string
flesh-
on that?
It's like
Are
a
you-
low-cost fleshlight.
Oh, okay. You're not in.
Ah,
right.
okay.
Yeah, no, you do insert, I think. I think you crack the egg, you take the lube out, which isn't spermicidal, because I asked that question, pop the lube in, and then you just go to town.
On the egg.
In the
Yeah.
egg.
Oh,
the egg.
in the egg, right?
I'm pretty
okay.
sure in the egg, so it's
Yeah.
not on the chest.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting this conversation to go here.
No.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Hey,
Interesting.
hey,
We're
we're
Well,
learning.
4 lads can talk about an egg.
Yeah.
100%.
100%.
We're here now.
So, okay, we're going to get into the early days soon, but I sort of just wanted to reflect before then. You had your 19-year working anniversary last week. This will be a few weeks when we release it.
Yeah.
But do you ever take a moment, and I'm wondering if you do every year you have an anniversary, to just reflect on how far you've come?
Well, I forget every year, don't I?
Yeah.
And Vaughan at the end
This
of the
was
show
the
is like,
year that-
you forgot something? You
Is
forgot
there
something?
something you should have remembered today?
As most good partnerships do.
Yeah. Someone's forgotten something. But no, you remember this year. But no, it feels like it's been forever, but also it feels like it's been a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. Like, it really struck me once. A woman came up to me and she was like, I've been listening to you guys for ages. I was like, oh, thanks so much. I never know what to say to people when they say, oh, we've been listening for years. Good.
Thanks.
Thank you. Please continue to do so I might pay my mortgage. And she said, yes. He says, I remember when you got the job with Fletch, I was pregnant with this young fellow. And I looked at this adult man and I'm like, fuck off.
Really?
Yeah. He was,
I guess so.
He was 17 at the time, but he was this big, tall 17-year-old. And that kind of was a real, like, visualization of it.
Yeah, man, that's awesome.
It was, it was
Like,
real
people-
eye-opening.
People were commenting on that post, weren't they? Like,
Yeah.
oh, God, I feel old now.
Yeah. I was 10 when I remember, listening when I was 10 and now I'm 29. It's like, ugh.
But that's the amazing part of the longevity is that, people have gone with you through that full journey, Like, there would be listeners that would have listened to every show, I imagine, over 19 years. Like, they would know you so sort of intimately.
But it's changed heaps as well. Like, thank God there weren't podcasts back in the day. If there was audio,
like evidence, you mean?
yes, evidence, as we would describe it, evidence, item A in the evidence drawer. As much because you could say things you did say things in 2004 that you certainly wouldn't say now.
Yeah.
And will it be 20th or 21st, the big celebration, without wanting to forecast your future?
Well, that's
yeah.
because the 21st is the birthday, isn't it? But anniversary, I think it's your 20th. It's going to be the bigger.
Okay.
So next year, he's next 85.
Definitely.
Yeah, and then you'll do a yardie the year after.
Yeah.
19 is like an Instagram post. 20 is a
Yeah, big party.
It's got to be something.
It's got to be something.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's exciting. All right, so I want to sort of chart the story back to the beginning. So in the beginning, there was Carl and a Quit Your Day competition.
Yep.
And Vaughan, you were working at the Generator at the time.
Yep.
And you entered the competition. Can you reflect on what you remember from those very early days?
I remember it was, somebody said to enter the competition, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'll do that. And then classic, like, how old was I? 22-year-old Hamiltonian. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it this weekend. Did not do it that weekend. Yeah, no, I'll do it. And just didn't. And then somebody I know that worked at another radio station up there said, hey, are you doing this? And I said, I wasn't going to. I just thought that, I've run out of time. And he's like, oh, flick it through to me and I'll take it down. And then that was how I entered.
Was it as easy as filling in a form?
No, it was like that classic old, hey, you got a radio job, sent them in a Skype tape of some of your best work, which I remember was ringing the local cinema asking Passion of the Christ was on. And I was like, I already know how it ends. Do I need to come and see the movie? And like, what a fucking stupid thing. Hello, Cinema 7. Hi, hey, I see Passion of the Christ is on this afternoon. Yes, it's on at 2:30 and then again at 5:30. I was raised Catholic. I kind of know how it ends. Is there any like surprises, any twists? Is there any like post-credit scenes? And she was just like, what? And I was like, oh, like I know how the story ends. And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, he dies, he comes back, and then hangs around for a bit longer, and then ascends to heaven. And she's like, yeah, I haven't seen it myself, so that's good. That's really good. That was it. It wasn't that well done either. It was like real stuttery and horrible. But sent that in and then got a call. And
I seem to recall like a Russell Simmons type stunt as well on Victoria Street.
Russell Simmons.
No? Part of that audition process?
Oh, like a aerobics. Yeah. There was a public aerobics. That was when I got to the next part of it and had to do wacky radio things. And did a public aerobics display and remember in Rebel Sports, you used to have the running thing around it?
Yes, I do.
I had to like convince people to race me in there and just a whole lot of
How
that
are you
sort of-
capturing that? Because this is pre-cell phone camera days.
Yeah, no, there was no video.
Oh, God.
It was literally just, the only thing was a crackly ass phone line. That was all, there was no proof that it was happening.
But you actually did it.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
I mean, looking back now, I could have totally faked it.
Dedication.
I worked at radio. I could have set up sound effects and everything and like absolutely rorted my way
Must
in.
have really wanted the job.
Yeah, must have.
What was your, Carl, side of it? Because this was a job to replace Mike Peru, who ended up halfway through sort of backing out.
Classic
and
Peru.
then
Tech Scott Pro. Empty promises.
and then was it essentially a competition to find your part? Like, how did you feel
so
about this?
just as that was happening, Alex decided he was going to eat, pray, love and move to Australia or Thailand or something like that. He was like, I just need to travel. And I remember thinking, we've got a good thing going, because I think we'd just got Chang on board.
Yep.
And
Chang
so
was there just before I got there. Yeah.
doing some good stuff there, and I was kind of a bit gutted, and then they kind of switched it, because then Mike, I think the job fell through that he was going to leave for.
Flipside. He was going to leave. Yeah, he was leaving to do full-time Flipside.
And then they were like, we're going to cancel that. Or something like that. Is that what happened?
Yeah,
I think so. And then so he ended up staying. And then, and you kind of just slipped into the drive job.
And are you sitting there going, who is this?
Well, you saw the chops.
Who is this? Yeah. And was he still rocking them?
He rocks up in Glass-On's jeans, flared jeans, and these chops.
A Led Zeppelin t-shirt.
Yeah.
Prescription aviator
too much has
sunglasses.
changed, really, has it?
I think everyone in the office is like, this guy does not fit the demo. I remember people in the office like, we should do a makeover thing with him, where we get him a haircut and like proper clothes. Yeah,
one of the prizes, it wasn't a prize until like the last minute. One of the prizes was like a clothing voucher.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, weird, that's been added in, not thinking anything of it. And then like years later being like, that's probably what they were getting at there.
Yeah.
I see the vision.
Yeah, I mean, you did meet your wife looking like that
I
too, didn't
did.
you? Which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
incredible. She saw a Greyland do-up.
Yeah. Well, no, she saw Greyland in the 1970s and was like, I should buy a block of property for $10 and see what comes of it.
Yeah.
A good investment, it seems.
Yeah.
So, like, 19 years later, you guys have obviously established this incredible friendship which works on air. But those early days, like, did it go smoothly from the start? Do you remember what you thought about each other in those initial months?
I don't think it didn't go bumpy, but it is weird just to be forced into a situation with someone.
Yeah, it's
that
an
you've
arranged.
never met
It's an
before.
arranged marriage rather than organic partnership, right?
It is.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But they'd done our star signs, hadn't they?
Yeah, they had, and
we
we were-
worked out.
Were they compatible?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
They must have been. I mean, those things don't lie. They must
Yeah.
have been. And but it was never rocky. It was like you're getting to know someone you've never met before in a kind of a high pressure situation of make this work or you won't have a job.
But pretty lucky, because I would hate to start a show now with someone new and you've got all the feedback of social media and
Yeah.
instant responses. Like we had text messaging into
Yeah.
the studio,
Yeah,
only
yeah.
just.
But when it costs 20 cents per text, people aren't as free and easy as they are on like the Herald comments.
Yeah, probably really making some effort
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
Really
giving
put as much abuse into 161 characters as they possibly can.
Fuck you guys.
I should have said more. And this is why.
So we were quite lucky that we had a lot of time to develop. Whereas
Yeah.
I don't think you'd have that kind of time now, not on a network show,
Nah.
after like all those years.
And
To just be like, get rid of them.
Yeah.
This was sort of going back to 2004, but it was, like we spoke about, quite stunt-based radio at the time.
Very much so.
Jackass was was it Jackass
Yeah.
territory? And
Yeah.
Do you remember that Icelandic version of Jackass? Just as a little tangent to insert there, it was like these other weird Icelandic guys, and they used to do some fucking like.
Yes. What was their name?
I can't remember now.
But
I've
they
gone
all look like
blank.
Vikings.
They did, obviously.
Yeah.
And
And there was crossover, like Johnny Knoxville would appear on.
yeah, and they like
Yes.
fucking jumped out of
Right.
like big pine trees and stuff like that. Producer Adam.
The
Dudesons.
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 The Dudesons.
Wow.
That
Yeah,
new
that
TV
rings a
show.
bell.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
Dudesons,
yeah.
I remember.
Sorry, it just popped in my head. Karen Steve.
That is such shade areas, the nichest little...
Yeah, that's what I do.
It
That's
is.
what I bring.
No, it's brilliant. But did you arrive at the stunt-based stuff enjoying it? Like now your show is very conversational and you sort of moved past that, I feel like, quite quickly. Was that by design?
It's a lot of work. And I don't know, it just feels like you're just doing the same thing over and over. Like there's so
Yeah.
many things you can do and everybody was doing it. Like everybody in radio was, and youth targeted radio was doing extreme stunt stuff. I don't know, it wore thin, I guess. And as we got older, the head just fell off Jesus over it.
Is that a sign?
wow. He heard what you said about the Passion of the Christ.
Yeah. I'm
Did the head fall up? For those listening.
There's a...
It's by your feet. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yes.
Yes.
There's a
Headless.
statue of Jesus and the head has just fallen off.
Yeah, that is incredible.
I think we just call it now.
Yeah, well, hey, we had a good run, guys.
Yeah. It's been fun.
It's the end of the show. That's
Cancel
the
that
end of the
20th and 21st celebrations,
Yeah,
guys.
yeah.
'cause-
See you in hell.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have it down there. It'll be the better place to party.
I would say, though, we both hate stunty stuff so passionately.
Yeah, it certainly wore thin.
And when did you make a kind of active decision to move it to being more conversational?
It's weird. We've kind of been fought on it, like
every step
from
of the
every
way.
step of the way. Where it was just like, it's okay that we are just trying to have the most entertaining conversation every morning. And people were like, no, you've got to, like, when we first came to ZM, they were the management team at the time were very much like, the biggest show in Australia is Kyle and Jackie O, and they love like controversy, and they'll have people on, and you know it could be the most controversial figures, but they've got them on, and I was just like, why? Like that's not us.
Yeah.
Like we just want to have some lighthearted chat and drop a bunch of innuendo, and you know, and try to have fun every morning, especially when you're getting up at 4 a.m. if you're not, you know, having creative control. And it's been great, like the last. And you can kind of see like where it started really working for us ratings-wise, which I don't put too much weight on, but I mean, it's how they make the money and everything in commercial radio. It tied into when we were allowed to just be ourselves and focus on what we do best, arguably. It started to work. And it's because we weren't putting any effort into being anybody we weren't, which we never have been, but, you know, there was always a little bit of a push that way, I think.
Yeah, I think certainly in the early days, it was like, what are you doing? And we had Chang with us, and it was like, send him out and do stuff to him. And what are you doing today? It's like, can we just talk about stuff?
But that's also, I just don't think you could do what was happening with Chang in 2023 and 2023. I think even something in 2005, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah. I remember once were we giving away tickets, or we sent him to a clothing bin. And he's quite a small man, and I think we just said, "Get in."
Yeah.
And he was like, and he managed to squeeze in, even though it's like a kind of a V, so that you can't get the clothes. Yeah. And then he ended up getting in there, and he's like, "Guys, I can't get out." And I just remember hearing the fire engine go past the studio.
Yeah.
But it was all on air, and it was all brilliant. And the boss, of course, was like, "This is great." He loved complaints. He didn't care at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of
the
stuff.
fire department. The New Zealand Fire Service had quite a different view on it.
Did they have to come and get the jaws of life to cut him out?
They
had to cut the lock off because they couldn't get a hold of whoever had the padlock.
You're a handyman. I feel like you could cut a lock off.
Well,
I don't feel like you need the fire department to cut a lock.
Yeah, well, now I probably could have, get down there with a DeWalt angle grinder and really get into it. But at the time, I was not, and I didn't have any power tools capable of it.
I feel like by just being authentic and having conversations, it speaks to the longevity, because it's easier to just turn up and be yourself rather than have these pre-prepared stunts. But I'm also aware that a lot of planning goes into the show. Like the conversations, are they all like? I'm talking about the Edge days now and the Drive show. Like how structured was it?
So,
dude, it was a fucking mess. It was so much fun. It was chaos.
Drive, you played like 2 or 3 songs in a row. So you'd top of the hour, you'd be like, all right, hey, I didn't even think we knew what was happening at 1:15.
No.
You'd play 3 songs, and then while those 3 songs are playing, Vaughan and I most of the time would be like, okay, what are we going to talk about?
Is that what they call a 3-song sweep?
No, 3-song sweep. Oh,
so good.
Beautiful.
And then I think even if we did phone-in topics, you'd do it 3 breaks. So you'd be going to like 22 the hour.
Yeah.
And we'd just make it up, sometimes with 20 seconds to go.
Yeah.
And I remember we said this to a radio school once, and we never got invited back. You could just see the guy, was it Larry?
Yeah,
I think
Larry
you could
Somerville.
see Larry Somerville, who More FM days was at the back of the class, and you just saw his face just like, no, we're not inviting these assholes back.
No.
They're teaching the kids wrong things.
Teaching them terrible habits.
But breakfast, you certainly cannot fly by the seat of your pants. You have to. Every break needs to be prepared.
Yeah.
Although in the end of the Drive days, we did have, they started like, because we didn't have a producer when we started.
No.
So we'd have to answer the phones, read, sort through everything. And then when did we get a producer? Maybe
like 2010?
Yeah. So maybe for the last
like 6 years, you two are doing everything?
Yeah.
And I think even...
And by you two, Fletch is doing everything?
Yeah, Fletch. Fletch panelled and everything. I dealt with the tech, and if it was literally like if someone wanted a prize, I'd have to be like, okay, Dave, what's your last name?
Oh my God,
thanks,
yes.
Dave. And your postal address, Dave? No, Dave, we don't send to PO boxes, Dave. If you could just hit me with an actual physical address. Yep, that will be fine, Dave. And a mobile number? Yep, no, that'll do. Yep. And it was just like that.
We're on in 30 seconds.
And I'd be like, there's 2 more people that need prizes. And so it was, so when the producer came, it was a lot more like, palm that off.
But your shows didn't really have, I think breakfast shows might have had one producer if they were lucky.
Yeah, who was often a newsreader as well.
Yeah.
New hot guy.
New hot guy, yeah, Mark Peart. Very good friend of mine now, actually. Yeah, really one of the most legendary men in broadcasting with the patience of a saint.
But yeah, they started to kind of take the show seriously, and then when we got producers at planning, and you'd have a prep grid, and so you knew what every break was, and
but then it was a safety net more than a guideline in those days.
When you reflect on those 9 years at the Edge, like, was it like, how quickly did the snowball build? Like, was it after year 1 or year 2 where they started to get a real attention and like ratings went up?
I'd say later. Like,
yeah, it was definitely towards the end.
Yeah.
Which was again when we were kind of left to our own devices. And yeah, it was later in the piece. There was a couple of there was 1 year. Was it in the same year? We got Africa to number 1 in the charts.
Yeah.
Toto's Africa, and that was literally like an on the spot. We should do that. Literally, the idea developed on air, and
all the best things did, though, didn't they?
Yeah, totally. Like Fact of the Day was page of the day initially when Facebook first started, and people would start crazy Facebook pages, and everyone would be like, "Ha yeah, you're not my ladder, you're my step ladder. You're not my real ladder, you're my step ladder." Funny, like page, and then it became some like weird Russian advertising bot 3 years later.
Yeah.
But like that was born in the moment, and then that, and then it was in 2012 because I remember it was like 2 weeks after my first daughter was born. I was real tired, and I was like, I found this thing, and it's this guy's entire text conversation with this girl.
It's amazing.
Yeah, what crazy sounds like was what he loaded up as, and I acted it out, and we were like, it's 8 minutes, it's so long, but we did it live.
Yeah.
I read it to Fletch, he's like, it's great, it's long. I was like, I don't know. And the boss is like, it's 8 minutes, it's too long. And I was like, I don't know, it just feels right. And then,
I listened to the whole 8 minutes again yesterday.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It was, but then again, would you do that nowadays?
I reckon it still plays. I think it still plays.
When I listen to it, it pops up on my Facebook memories of when it was like going crazy. And I listened to it a couple of years ago, and I was like, oh God, like now knowing, what we know about mental health and everything. I was like, is it everybody's pointing and laughing at the girl who's not been given a straight answer?
Yeah.
What was that like from her side of things? I don't want to poo-poo on our own bloody biggest piece of audio that's ever gone viral online, but now I can listen to it, and I'm like, oh man, I wonder.
But even attention spans now, like, would people give it the attention now?
Well, yeah.
I did, but maybe I'm cut from a different cloth.
True.
Old school.
But that piece of audio, that gave us listeners from all over the world.
Yeah, was that through Reddit? Did it go on Reddit? Is that where it caught fire?
SoundCloud as well.
You can still find it, by the way, listeners. We
it's
can
still
link
on
it
SoundCloud. It's
This is what is
This is
it?
what crazy looks.
This is what crazy
sounds
like.
This is what crazy sounds like was the audio.
And Kevin,
version.
I'm still friends with Kevin on Facebook. He's married now.
Oh,
He's married.
Is that the guy?
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we tracked him down and talked to him, and he was just like, wow, okay.
So you were able to track that because it blew up internationally, you were able to hook the international listeners?
Well, we just started hearing from people. Like, they'd message in.
Yeah, well, and we did have a podcast at that stage. It wasn't an everyday full show podcast. It was just
secret
bits of
show?
the show.
Is it the secret show? No. Okay.
No.
I don't think. What's the secret show? Well, it's
a
a very
secret
secret show. It's so secret. We haven't even heard of it.
It was different Fletch and Vaughan, must
First
have
rule of secret show is you never talk about secret show.
We'll cut that bit out.
Yeah, cut that.
The Toto Africa thing I really strongly remember, and I don't know, obviously you already had a big audience at that point, but being able to mobilize an audience to do something must have been quite a feeling of, oh, wow, what else can we do?
Yeah, it's crazy. It wasn't streaming. It was that people were paying $1.99 to download Toto's Africa. And I think it started.
Which in those days was a lot of money.
A lot of money. You had to listen to that thing 1,000 times to get your values worth. But I think it was because we were doing, after we started getting international listeners, we were doing a podcast segment where we would read out messages from people. Where are you listening in the world? And every time someone messaged from anywhere in Africa would and play Toto Africa. It was like this thing, and then we were just like, oh, wonder if this would chart. And then that was just one of those things that stupidly in the moment happened, and it kind of took off.
And they changed the rules as a result of it?
Yes, they did. They changed it because it was radio play and purchases. Now that could be physical or digital, and digital was a massive part of it because everybody had Apple iTunes at that stage. It was before Spotify and before Apple Music as it is now. So people were just going buy, was just going on credit cards, and then afterwards they changed it.
They weren't
How
happy.
did they change it? Oh, they were not happy.
I can't remember what they.
Did you have any direct contact with him saying
the
like,
With
boss-
Rianne's.
the
Yeah, he
boss-
came in,
yeah.
the boss came in and he was like, it's all very well and good, but you're really starting to fuck Rianne's off. And I was like, I don't know who the fuck Rianne's is, but say hi to them.
Yeah, you're fucking off the very people that would buy thousands of their own artist records
Yeah.
just to
Yeah,
rig,
yeah,
to rig
yeah.
the charts anyway. It's like, don't come at us like saying that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a
Bit rich.
Expose how easy it was to rig the...
This is it. And we also got the rules changed for radio awards too, didn't we? Do you remember that? It's a couple of fine career moments.
Yeah.
Because the radio awards were like, you had to enter. It didn't specify
What
on
your entry was.
Yeah, so we went to the Fisher and Paykel factory, and was it Takanini or something?
Yep.
And we got
Out south somewhere.
you had to have 4.
You had to 4. Everything had to be submitted in what's triplicate plus another one.
Quadruple.
Quadruplicate. So
it's what we are here.
yeah, we're a quadruplicate. And yeah, so we got 4 big fridge doors and made it like
Magnets,
made
those
it
leather magnets.
And our entry was what a parent's fridge would look like, a drawing of us and magneted on, and then like
Ratings,
a chart,
graphs, yeah.
and then just went and delivered 4 fridge doors to the radio awards people.
Who were like,
Because
what?
and it was all because we didn't want to enter, but they were the edge where we were working was like, you have to enter. And I was like, ugh, well, if I'm entering, I'm making an inconvenience for everybody.
And then after that, they were like, entries must be on an A4 piece of paper.
No bigger than an A4 piece of paper.
Yes.
Like, okay.
It's pretty wild talking to radio hosts, because normally you get guests on and you find like 2 or 3 of these things to talk about through their career, which are the highlight. You've got just like hundreds of them. You know, we could just continue going on.
Oh, it's weird, and you forget about them until like I'd
Yeah.
completely forgotten about that fridge door thing until you said we got the radio awards rules changed. I was like, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so after 9 years, you were #1 drive show in the country on the Edge, and Fletch gets a call from David Bryce about moving
yeah,
to ZN.
We used to call those the David. You'd always want the David Bryce call.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's what you called it.
Can you tell us about that stage you were at, and where
Is
the
it
call
a
came
case
from?
of the number comes up and you've saved the number?
Well, I didn't know the number, and I was back home in New Plymouth, and I just answered this number, which you'd never do now, because
No.
it'd probably be some spam bot thing.
Totally.
And I was like, hello, and he's like, hello, it's David Bryce here. And I was like, oh, fuck, here we go. And I was like, hello. And he was like, yeah, some people want to meet with you, blah, blah, blah. And I just say, okay, sure, I'll get back to you, and hung up, and I called Vaughan, and I said, you'll never guess who I've just heard from.
Yeah, I remember I was at home in the lounge with my wife. We were watching something. Fletcher's like, you'll never guess who I've heard from. And I paused it, and I was like, you're fucking kidding me. And Sade's looking at me like, what? I'm like, just wait for it. Wait, I'll tell you the full story at the end. You know what wives are like when you're like
Yeah.
interested in a phone call? She's like, pause it and tell me now. I'll put it on speakerphone.
What is it? Who is it? What is
Yeah.
it?
This is not a speakerphone conversation. Becky, you be quiet.
Yeah. And being that there's like literally 2 places you can work in New Zealand, until you have an offer and have leverage, that was it. You wouldn't get a pay. I mean, you'd get a pay rise, but it would be like, here you go.
Yeah.
You're lucky to have a job.
Or one of our workmates signed up for KiwiSaver through the company. And he got a handshake saying, congratulations on your 2.5% pay rise. And he came out and he's like, is it a pay rise? It's like, no, that's illegal. You can't. It's a government mandated savings program. They can't say that their contribution to your KiwiSaver is your pay rise. And it's like, shit, I signed. Oh, you'll know for next time.
Media works.
You'll know for next time. Fuck now.
But is it like when you're in those situations at industry events and stuff like that, is there like you coming out of a bathroom and someone from the opposition's coming in and, actually just want to have a conversation here about coming across? Or was it all cloak and dagger and until
It was
you
very
get that
cloak and dagger.
phone call?
Oh, the phone call was really unexpected.
Yeah.
We weren't sitting there waiting for it or thinking, this year's the year that we, get approached by the opposition. It was really unexpected, but I mean, that's only our experience. I know some people seek it out. And, as bad as it is, because you're just trying to advance your career and you're trying to see what else is out there for people. But it was because there's only 2 companies, if you went to the other one and said, hey, look, are there any opportunities coming up? And if they were like, no, but then it got out to the company you were working at that you were actively over the road asking what they had, it was real like,
You're back at the generator.
Yeah. Should be back off to Hamilton. See what you got down there. But which it shouldn't be, because shit, everybody's just trying to look after themselves, You got to, and it should almost be congratulated that you went to advance your own career.
Because was it not real? I can't. My memory's fuzzy. But was it not really?
No.
People crossed floors.
So
No.
I remember, like, as a teenager, so I grew up in New Plymouth, where Energy FM was the first station that Stephen Joyce started, which went on to become MediaWorks and The Rock and all of those stations. And so we always had like amazing shows. I remember we had Rick and Katrina, great. Ended up working with them over the years, great people.
Yeah.
And they ended up going to Christchurch to take over from Phil and Cy and Phil.
Wow.
Who went from ZM to More FM and stayed there forever. And that was, at the time, that was like massive because everybody just went with Cy and Phil.
Oh, yeah. Those
was
heritage shows that changed. Yeah, it was pretty massive.
And I think like until we did that, there wasn't really anything
There
major
hadn't been
like
any
that.
big changes, no.
Nothing that was as shocking. People were just like, what the hell? Because it was such a shock to everybody.
For those who don't know what we're talking about, it's moving from drive radio to breakfast radio, which is a big change to your lifestyles as well.
On a different...
and changing companies as well.
Yeah.
But was it, as soon as you had the call, did you know you were going straight away? Like, was it an obvious yes, or did it take a while to think about?
We had to like... we met with them a few times because we wouldn't have gone to the ZM that was the ZM at the time. And we wanted to know that it was...
Yeah, we just wanted some assurances that we weren't going to be sold the dream and then get here and it was just going to be the same old, same old. There was meetings and some back and forths and stuff. And I think they were the management at the time kind of respected that it wasn't just like, you show me the money, motherfuckers! Like, it was like, no, we want to know that, there's a long-term plan for us. And after 2 years, if it's taking a while to turn the ship around, it's not going to be like, chuck them overboard or anything like that. So, yeah, and I think they quite liked that we were, invested in the long-term game and to hear them out.
Sorry, are you driving those negotiations as a peer? Or have you got a third party involved that's helping you steer those chats?
Until then, you just do it yourself, eh?
Yeah. But we at that time we kind of also got an agent just for like legal, just to keep it all on the level and everything at that stage. So yeah, prior to that we hadn't been. So yeah, she was involved in that, but she was just like, you tell me what you want me to do, and yeah, I think that management at the time appreciated that we were dealing with it rather than completely handing it off to a third party and just saying that, hit that figure and we'll sign on a dotted line sort of thing. So yeah, there was a whole lot of things where we were like, well, what about this and what about this and what about this and what about that area and what's going to change here and there, and so, yeah.
And it gets a bit complicated then because you make the decision, you sign the deal, but then you go on gardening,
Dude, we had 6 months.
6
we
months?
No, not 6 months gardening leave. We had 6 months left at the edge after we said we were leaving, and everything just got we would walk into a room and it would just go quiet.
Yeah.
And not because there were people there and still are very good friends with them, but everybody was told not to tell us anything about any plans.
Really?
We were told, like, if it was happening on air, we were pretty much told the day it would be happening.
Yeah.
They
thought we'd tell.
Yeah.
Like we.
I don't know.
But we actually
it was
did
like espionage and spying.
You wouldn't have. The listener would never have known.
No. Well, they didn't.
We
Right
were,
until the end. And then we had 3 months off for gardening leave.
that was in your contract? You had to do 6 months, like 6
Well,
months?
we had
work out
6
our
months
contracts.
left, and then when you had to give notice with a month or two, right? So
Yeah.
And it wasn't public, right? It was industry known, or did you on air go, we're leaving at the end of the year?
At the end of the last week, they let us say.
Yeah, we didn't really say anything because we didn't it didn't really mean much to the listener at the time, so we just carried on as per. And then just in the lead up to leaving, we were like, at the end of the year when we leave, we won't be coming back. But we were also not allowed to say where we were going.
Right.
Like right up until the announcement, which was not until April.
People were like,
year.
you're going to Hauraki?
Hauraki?
We're like, look, we don't
and
know.
And then saying Hauraki listeners like, those better not be fucking coming here. It's like, okay, everybody calm down. But it was so good. And I think it's healthy to step away from it for 3 months and be like, holy shit, the world isn't ending.
Yeah, the world goes on.
Like, we're not surgeons. We're not saving people's lives. We're just having fun and hopefully brightening some people's days, which is cool. And it's like an honor to be able to do it. But at the same time, when we weren't doing it, the world didn't end.
Yeah, we didn't get invited to the Christmas parties, did we?
No.
In our last year.
Yeah.
Few months.
No.
You flicked the lights off, didn't you, to close up for the year?
Dude, both jobs in radio I've left, I've had to turn the lights off on the way out.
That's amazing.
It was Christmas Eve, eh? We're like, what do we do with the
So
swipe card?
this is Christmas. Dun, 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 dun. Turn off the Christmas lights, turn off the lights.
Very
out the door.
trusting.
Yeah.
Very trusting.
Smash the
I
place
stole
up.
so much shit. Like I went down to the car, basically
prize
got my
cupboard?
car, but I literally just backed it up to the prize cupboard and then just pushed it.
Yeah,
all
good stuff.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Looking back, was that an exciting period or a stressful period? Like, do you remember?
Very stressful.
Stressful.
Initially,
you lived in Colombia for 2 months. What do you mean?
Oh no! I mean, when the deal, because there was a lot of stuff going down, like
in Colombia.
In the
When the deal went sour in Colombia, there was a lot of stuff going down.
I fled to Colombia.
Bang, 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 bang.
No, it's just stressful while the negotiations were happening, and then once the deal was done, there was still ongoing.
I didn't find it stressful. I don't know. Maybe. I can't remember it as being stressful.
A medium stress.
At the moment, there could have been some stress involved, but it was like an exciting part.
Because we knew that we backed ourselves.
Yeah.
We weren't like, it wasn't imposter syndrome where we're like, we can't do a breakfast show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You smashed it for 9 years. You got a bit of base.
God, if anybody can get gardening leave, do it.
Oh my God, so good.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, I had 6 months once. It was phenomenal.
Beautiful.
It wasn't garden leave. It was paid out to the end of the year. It was
it
was fantastic.
Good
Lovely.
stuff.
Yeah.
Lovely.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Shall we aim to be made redundant?
But the shift from drive to breakfast is
indescribable.
Were you?
We'll move on. We'll move on to the next topic.
Young kids at the time,
yeah.
like that's a big changer.
It was, I had a 2-year-old, and then 6 weeks after we started at ZM, my second daughter was born. So I think having a kid who wasn't a great sleeper was good prep for breakfast radio, because it was like, oh no, you don't sleep now, or you are awake now for the day. There shall be no downtime. So yeah, I think so. But it is a massive lifestyle change. Like drive. I think of those 9 years, how many sleep-ins I had where I could have been up doing something productive, where I was just like, no, fuck that. 9 o'clock, snooze at 9 and wake up at 11. Like, that's ridiculous.
Roll into work. And then we always started work when we worked afternoons with a lunch break.
With a 1.5 hour lunch break.
We'd make our lunch together.
Yeah, we'd just sit in the staff room just talking, and people would be like, oh, God. Yeah. Good times. But no, it's drastically changes. It's
like I'm in bed at 8 o'clock, 8:15 most nights.
Like my dad's a dairy farmer and has been for as long as I can remember. And he said, oh, I don't know how you do it. And I was like, but you get up at the same time as me. He's like, yeah, but I don't have to talk or think or anything. I have to deal with cows and just push them in the right direction. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, oh, I don't know how you do it. I like talking at that time of the day. I was like, oh, okay. And it is kind of like mentally exhausting, but you can fall into the trap of being like, I think I'm mentally and physically exhausted, so I'm going to have a 3-hour nap and then spend all day doing nothing and eating Best Ugly Bagels for the first 6 months of breakfast and putting on 18 kgs. That happens to a lot of people.
And
it's
that's
not
the
specific.
Yeah, it is wild dynamic when your day is essentially finished at 9:30. I know you've got meetings and things after your show, right?
Yeah.
But like, you've got a whole day to do
rules.
things every day.
Yeah, it rules. Afternoons, it's so good.
But it is weird because unless you've done it, you don't understand. Because I remember when we were at the Edge and breakfast would be like out the door at 9:30, be like, oh, look at them.
Yeah.
And you'd be
As
like,
we
we've got it
started the day with
so
a
easy.
1.5 hour lunch break.
But it's exhausting, like, because you're just mentally drained. So you get off air at 9 and you're just done. Some days you're just like, I'm done with people for today.
And the glory days of the afternoon 3-song sweep, you're talking after every song, and every quarter hour is going to be looked at differently. So there's a lot more content, and it's just endless.
Does that mean there's a lot more prep, like during the day before the next morning's show?
Yeah, that's when we do most of our prep for what's happening the next day as well. I mean, we don't lock it in, but we'll send through a list of discussion points or news items or ideas that we have the night before, and then piece it all in the next morning.
What time are you rolling in these days? Has it? Yeah, it's one of those ones, isn't it?
Gentleman's hours.
Hayley and I are in just after 5 with the producers as well, and then Vaughan rolls in anywhere between.
I live a long way away.
You live just by Hayley, and she manages to make it in half an hour.
She drives an Audi, and I drive a Jimny. I'm just saying there's a speed difference.
Okay.
Not as early as I perhaps should,
but has it decreased over time? Like when you first started, you were in at like 4 o'clock, and then now it's like.
I can't remember.
Mine decreased by 10 minutes. I think.
Okay.
I was like, I don't need to be. I literally wake up and just chuck my clothes on and I'm out the door.
Right.
Yeah. No. Well, I've definitely got later. But you hear about breakfast shows getting in at 3, and I'm like, that's fucking midnight. Like that's madness.
There was that phase you were going to the gym before
True. Yeah, I used to do that.
work. Is that still going?
No, God,
Secretly, too, he didn't tell us.
No.
Because
Right.
he'd always bag gyms. He'd always said, I hate gyms.
no. Don't go to gyms.
And then he started getting muscly, and everyone's like, how are you doing this?
I'm laid off the bagels. What can I say? Have you thought of investing in isogenics? No. Yeah, before work, and that was good, but it was the afternoon was a write-off. So I was like getting myself up, and I'd have all the energy at work because it was just after the gym, but then afterwards it was just a crash, and it was just like I was just a grumpy prick in the afternoons, and I was just like, this is like not I'm not sleeping enough. And
You got shingles.
I did get shingles.
That did it for you.
yeah, that laid off the before work gym sessions. Yeah. But yeah, it was just robbing Peter to pay Paul. You know, you were getting 2 hours extra in the morning, but it was 2 hours that you were too grumpy to do anything productive with your kids in the afternoon. So trade off.
Sleep on the couch.
You've mentioned Hayley there. How important is that female voice in terms of your show? Because you've had Megan and now you've got Hayley. So what balance does that? I'm putting words in your mouth, but what does that bring?
Oh, it brings a whole new element. Yeah, it's just cool having other people in, because I mean we probably know what each other are going to say before we say it. We've worked together for so long, and you can kind of be like, I know if I say this, he's going to pick it up and slam it, and it's going to be all good. It's just good having a third person in, just another perspective, and like the female perspective is needed because the stations we've worked at have been female skewed, and while we don't, dolly up content, for lack of a better term, I'm going to get cancelled for saying dolly up content.
No, I don't know. Maybe.
We've said a lot worse.
Good.
And we're still going.
Yeah, come for us. I think it's just important to have that female perspective, because we can. It comes sometimes if you were specifically like, okay, now we've got to remember we're female skewed, so if someone could come in a little with more of a female friendly angle, it could come across condescending or disingenuous. So yeah, it's good to have.
But you were able to sort of bring your team with you as well when you made the move, right? You
Yep.
had producer James and Megan came across.
Yep.
So that was like a non-negotiable?
That would have just open, said, who do you currently work with? And like we'd established a working relationship with them, and we thought if we're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, new day part, way more content, we're not going to know anyone else that's on that team outside of our team. It would probably be best to bring in our team as one less hurdle to get over in it. So yeah, it wasn't a non-negotiable, but they said, who do you want to bring? And they were people we were really happy with and we were working with at the time. So
yeah. I spoke to James in prep for this, and I want to talk a little bit about you, Fletch, because in the background
he yelled at him, didn't I? Yelled at him.
You yelled at James a lot.
He said Fletch is the best anchor in radio, hands down. And I don't think people perhaps understand. And I was just talking to someone out there in the radio game. It's like, he's what they don't understand. It's a little bit like we had Jack Tame talking about hosking. They don't realise that the level of expertise it takes him to nail to the second what he's talking about, and the little time breaks and working the tools. But the same has been said about you. And maybe you could speak to it, Vaughan, because you'd have a closer idea. Like, the ability to just platform the show and work the tool. I don't know the lingo.
It's insane. People in radio that I've talked to are like, does Fletch still panel? What panels like the pushing the buttons and fading the songs up and down and da da da. And I'm like, yeah. And they're just like, Jesus, it doesn't happen anymore. Like no one
doesn't, does it?
Panels their own show. A lot of people have panel ops, but then Fletch would hate that because he's a control freak, which is what makes him good at. But he also participates in the show at the level of someone who's not doing it because he's been doing it for so long. So yeah, it is. There's nobody. I'll say it. I'll go on record.
I'm not good at receiving compliments.
I'll go on record and say it. Look at me. Look at me while I say it. Look at me while I say it. Look at me in my eyes. You're the best at it.
Oh, thanks.
He is. Yeah, but you're right. There's no one else I don't think is as competent.
It is hard though, because like there'll be times when, like I think this week I said a stat and I didn't hear because I was sorting something else, some audio or Googling, and you said, I just said that. Because sometimes I'll listen back to a segment, I'll be like, I do not remember Vaughan saying that. Because
I listened to shows from like 3 weeks ago and I'm like, what? I don't remember saying that.
Okay, that must just be our age, maybe.
Yeah, maybe that's an age.
No, but yeah, you're just constantly thinking, so there's a lot happening, so yeah, it's not always perfect, but yeah, I couldn't not panel.
Oh, I
think a lot of people still panel, like Kyle and Jackie O, like Kyle panels.
Yeah.
Jace panels.
There was a time where
okay, look, no.
there was a year, I'd say a year period where Fletch we were doing a lot of, because that's another good thing about afternoons is you can broadcast from places and people have the time to come down. Like you could broadcast from a bar and say, oh, if we were doing like the parties where I met my wife, if you were going to a town to do something, you'd broadcast from there and be like, come down and grab some last minute tickets or whatever, come down and see blah, 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 do whatever. But when you're on afternoons, it means that all you've got is a mic and somebody else is taking care of it all at the station. And we had a period of a year where we were doing a lot of outside broadcasts and Fletch fucking tore through panel ops. Like, there was one guy and I was sitting there with my hands like horse blinkers just like, oh my God. And Fletch is like, you had 3 fucking songs, man! But this guy just kept making the same mistake over and over and over.
The next gen system that we have, you press pause pending. So when you're going to talk after the song, it will stop. Whereas if that's not put on by you, the panel op, the song will just run into the next thing, which would be a trailer or ads. And yeah, he missed 2 breaks in a row. And then he missed the 3rd one. And I was like, and there were 3 fucking songs every time. And I just
and then it went quiet. And we're like, oi, are you there? Are you there? Ring the station. We're like, what's happened? We can't hear him. And they went in there like, he's gone. And it was just like, and they found him out the back, and he was like, it was too much, it was too much, it was too much. And someone's like, what happened? I forgot to press the pause button. Oh, that's all right, mate. 3 times. Oh, no, that's not okay, is it? Yes. Shouldn't have made that mistake 3 times.
3 strikes in one shift.
Wasn't that the same guy that went in for a job interview at another radio station, and the boss said to him,
what do you think it would bring to the station? It was, I'm not going to say the guy's name, but it was Brad King at the Rock. I won't say the guy who was applying for the job. But Brad King told us this story because this was after the panel op incident, and he's like, "You guys did this with this guy, eh?" And we were like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay, you're gonna fucking love this." Brad King went, "You're gonna fucking love this." And he came in for an interview and he said, "Oh, what do you think you would bring to the station?" And the guy's like, "Fuck. Nah, fuck." And he got up and walked out. He just left.
Tough question.
And then left. So he was the most basic question in the world.
Not cut out for the pressure cooker that is radio. I will say that now.
Oh God, it's so good.
You had one job to press pause, with a mouse. It's not hard.
Yeah, not for everyone.
Now that next gen system though, that can catch people out, huh, Steve?
We did a episode with David Nika, the boxer.
Oh yeah,
2-hour chat, amazing, in-depth, vulnerable, and I was working the tools
He's
for the first
good-looking,
time.
eh?
Yeah,
good-looking guy.
good-looking man.
Yeah, you'd hate to waste his
Are
time.
they all like that in Hamilton?
Yeah.
Good spot.
Yeah.
Good spot, Fletch.
Ambassador.
This guy gets it.
Anyway, didn't record a single second of it.
Oh no!
Didn't record a single second. I was gutted for about a week. I couldn't let it go. It was just,
He's actually never been back to the country since.
True story.
So yeah, there is a skill. There is a skill to it.
I think we had our first show. We recorded a few things and they didn't work, but we always run a backup now. So we've learned from that
Right.
mistake too. We've all made it.
The other thing James said, I sort of asked, why, in his opinion, have you been so successful over the years? And he said a number of things, but one of them was that while other shows sort of made fun of people, there was a butt of the joke. You guys never did. There was never a loser in the gags, and it created this fun, happy vibe, which has obviously been able to last through 19 years. Do you think that's fair? Was that deliberate?
It wasn't. John Campbell was the first person that ever said it to me. But you know what I love about your show? Hey, it wasn't a great John Campbell.
It's not bad.
It's not bad.
Marvelous. You got to say marvelous. They're going to do it. Marvelous. Oh, Vaughan, I was listening to the show, and he said, "You guys don't punch down." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, like if you're making fun of people, it's people in power, or people who probably will never give a fuck what you think. And I was like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "Is that a conscious decision?" I was like, "No, it hadn't been. You don't punch down, do you?" And on the odd occasion where you're tired or whatever, or you accidentally it feels wrong.
You feel like a prick,
Yeah. What a fucking asshole. And then there's been various times where we'll come back the next break and I'm like, just before I said this and I didn't mean it to sound like that, and if it came across like that, then I can understand that was really inappropriate, but it certainly wasn't my intention. And I think if you're vulnerable enough to be like, I've made a mistake and I'm sorry, and you don't punch down, people don't feel they can punch back. We've talked to some radio shows and they're like, "Oh, what's your listener feedback like?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's all good." Occasionally there'll be, if you delve into something political, there'll always be the political bullshit retort just for the sake of it. But I'm like, no, it's generally really good and kind, and you know, if people don't have something nice to say, they won't say anything at all. And they're like, our audiences, like, they are ready to go. They're ready to go. And I'm like, and you talk to them about it, and it might not necessarily be them, but it could be somebody else on the station that is toxic or aggressive or punches down and just makes fun of anybody that manages to get in, you know, in the line of sight. And I'll be like, that's probably it, because they've heard one of the members of the flagship show on your station doing it, so they think that's the attitude of the station.
Yeah.
And then when that's pointed out to you, you're kind of like, well, we'll do our best to not.
It's the same. I guess how we've kind of trained our listeners over the years to.
Oh yeah. They're just not. What if they are? They don't share it with us, you know.
Yeah.
If they, and we understand everybody has bad days and stuff, but yeah, we've never really. When you don't put negative stuff on air, and you tend not to get it, you know, echoed back to you in various forms. So yeah, it didn't start out as a conscious decision. It was just what happened.
I remember reading an article with Hamish and Andy. Back in it was always horrible to be like, Hamish and Andy are doing this.
Oh God.
Yeah. How often is that compared?
Not in the 2010s.
When
all the fucking time.
Late noughts and early 2010s all the time.
They'd be like, Hamish and Andy have dropped a car out of a skydiving plane in the desert onto a target, and you're like, they've got millions of dollars. We've got like no show budget.
I remember I talked to Andy. Lee came across and did an episode of Have You Been Paying Attention, and I talked to him about it. I was like, do you know, every like male duo on radio after you guys took off were just told to copy you. And he's like, yeah, I know. And he's like, and I know you guys don't, but you hear about New Zealanders dob in New Zealanders who copy Hamish and Andy.
I think they
made
a segment out of it.
Yeah, where they'd ring the stations on shows that were like copying them. Yeah. And they were like, I mean, it's flattering because, you know, imitation's the highest form of flattery, but he's like, at the same time, it does get to the point where it's like, that was ours.
Yeah.
And I was like, I totally get that. But
yeah, I remember them saying, though, always about punching up and not down. And they would, I remember one of them saying that they would imagine being in front of that person, would they say the same thing? And that was always quite a good comment, I thought, too.
Yeah. That's what my mum used to say.
Wise words.
Good bit of Christine.
Wise words.
Wise words there.
Having the audience well trained is a good way of putting it. But like your audience is huge. Like your podcast is the most popular podcast in New Zealand as a spin-off to the radio show. I know you put a lot of effort into that too. But like the audience is just there, and I feel like it's because of the way you engage with them too. Like bringing in calls is quite unique to your show for breakfast radio. Like the amount of call-ins, am I right in thinking?
Yeah.
Drive was easy. Like, because everybody's active or driving home or, you know, towards the end of the workday, they'd be like, I'll take 10 minutes to make a bloody phone call. But like mornings is different. And it took a little while to turn it around. But yeah, we're amazed at the time and story people give up.
So good.
In the mornings.
Our first few weeks at ZM, we did some phoners and we were just like, fuck.
It's hard.
Because I don't really think they used to do that many phone-in topics on ZM in the morning before we took over.
No, I don't think so. They did the occasional one, but mostly giveaways and stuff. So
yeah.
I love the bit you've got at the moment. I was listening on the way in. Your audience is obviously so big that you think up an impossible angle that surely, like, it's going to be really hard for someone to relate to the story and phone in, but there's always people that do. Like,
and also, the trick is, the minute you tell people they can't do it, they're desperate to do it.
I get the piss taken out of me, don't I?
Yeah, before that, Fletch would be like, there's no way, there's not going to be anybody listening, but all that does is spur people on, I'll fucking show him!
I think we did one, Have You Died? And like we had all these calls from people that are, I died for like 10 minutes. I died for 20. It was brilliant.
It was insane.
But yeah, I think the listeners have been the strongest part of our show.
Absolutely.
Like just the yarns you can have with them. It's just brilliant.
Yeah.
Sorry, Karen.
No, well, we were just speaking about how a lot of podcasts are now going down the route of radio shows, like having listeners to their podcast
episodes where they record it, but like the Always Sunny in Philadelphia podcast where Conan does it as well. Conan O'Brien Needs a Fan, where he talks to someone that listens somewhere in the world. The Always Sunny guys do an episode where they literally tweet out a number saying, we're recording live if you want to talk now, and they'll call in. And I was like, podcasts are de-evolving back into radio.
Yeah.
You writing these ideas down?
I've got these all. What I wanted to ask is, does that continue off air, that sort of familiarity with your audience? Like, does it get to a point where people just come up and they feel like they know you and they know everything about you and you have zero idea about them?
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it is weird. And I guess radio was always good because you could hide a little bit in your anonymity, but with social media and it kind of becoming a hand-in-hand part of promoting the show as well, people might recognize you a bit more or just scream Fletch at you, to which I turn around and I say, that's fucking right! Fuck you, from Fletch!
All the time, all the time.
So, yeah, but people, as we said, like, people are genuinely really nice.
Yeah.
Like,
there's never a bad.
yeah.
I mean, maybe sometimes people are quite drunk.
I was at a wedding recently and a guy was real drunk. He's like, you know what I hate about your show? I was like, oh, please do tell me. I'm absolutely hanging. That fact of the day jingle. I was like, oh, what do you hate about it? And he's like, I just fucking hate it. But I like the rest of your show. You're all right. And I was like, okay, man, cool. But just that fucking jingle. And as I walked away, I was like, okay, thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, people, it's weird the things people recall and know about you, especially if they've been listening for a long time.
Yeah.
And then when they come up to you, they're just like and they forget that you don't know who the fuck they are.
But it's, you're in the car with them every day.
Yeah.
So in their mind, you are in the car with them every day, and they're like, hi! And you're like, hi! They're like, wait a minute, you don't know me. I'm like, no, I don't. But what is your name? And it is nice to meet you.
And it always takes me by surprise. I'm like, why are you staring? Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
it's my
yeah.
job. What?
Seamus, I hope I'm okay to say this. Seamus is in a new relationship, and
You're not, but that's fine.
Is this a hard launch or
Is
a
it
soft
we're
launch?
soft launching the relationship?
We hard launched it with Morgan last week.
Hard launch.
and his partner was a fan of the show. So I remember Shay saying on their first date, like she knew a lot about, because she'd listened to a bunch of episodes, so she felt like she knew him really well. And he's like, oh, this is a weird dynamic where I guess similar to what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's
They're
cool.
headed.
Yeah, I mean, means you've got a job, right? Like, people listen.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's getting more and
Yeah.
more of a thing for Stephen and I, definitely. Like people coming up and going, hey, love the podcast. How are you? How's this? How's that? How's this stuff? It's quite cool.
Has your partner thrown anything in your face yet?
No, not yet.
Oh, I look forward to that. You think you can talk about fucking anything on that radio show? Whoopsie!
As of right now, our episode with Morgan hasn't aired yet. So
Oh,
that's changed.
yeah. Or that, or it's going to open a whole lot of new doors.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Vaughan, one of the evolutions of your radio persona was your dad journey with the kids, which I think, I mean, I've certainly related to it. I've followed you on Instagram and stuff like that. How do you decide, and has it changed over the years, how much of it to share and how much of it to put on social media?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I remember when my second daughter was born, someone in management said, how much is he going to be talking about the kids? Because, you know, we're not like a dad station. But like it was
Good that that feedback got through, Fletch.
it was Fletch. But it's I always get so much engagement on it. Like if you talk on air about your kids, people love talking about their kids, so they'll call them with their own stories. They're their kids, but I don't care about other people's kids. I don't care about my kids. But it is one of those things, and it gets you like instant engagement with people, and you might have nothing in common with someone apart from the fact that they're a dad too. And I hear from so many people that are like, I don't listen to the station, it's not my music. I'll listen to the podcast sometimes, but like when you talk about the dad stuff, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going through that too, or I've been through that, or I remember going through that. But like levels of it to share my kids are kind of old enough now where I'll ask them. I'll be like, do you mind if I put that photo of you doing that on Instagram? And they're like, no, that's okay. Or like, that's cool. But, and there was one that blew up and got out of control, and it was when my daughter August was 2, or maybe under 2, or about 2, and she was pouring milk, and she was pouring it, and she was like, oh, and then panicked, and the milk went everywhere. And I put it on Instagram because it was such an adorable, like just watching her face being like, how do I stop this thing? And I put it on Instagram on like a Friday night, and I woke up on Saturday morning and it was everywhere. Like people were sending GIFs to me and like memes that were like, when I see a guy with red flags, but I don't know how to stop. And it's like,
My favorite was she was pouring into the Hutt River, which was flooded.
yes, yeah. But it was like,
And your face was like,
it was everywhere. And it was all like mostly good, but then there was the occasional one that was like just nameless trolls saying, what? One was like, you can see the autism from here. And I was like, what? Like, what does that even mean? Oof. Like,
kids are starving and you're wasting all this milk.
Yeah, that was another one. The milk, I can't afford milk. And it's like, well, it was a free promo bottle of milk. I don't mean to be wasting milk. We didn't know it was going to happen. But I mean, I didn't engage with any of it. But there was a few people that shared it that I just messaged. I was like, hey, like, it's kind of, if you're going to monitor the comments and delete anything, because my wife really didn't, some of the comments really got to her, like, that's a waste, or, you know, like, kids shouldn't be unsupervised, or what's that kid doing? Like, all that parenting, blah, 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 that the internet's famous for. She kind of really felt it, whereas I'm just like, water off a duck's back. Fuck them, I don't know them, I couldn't care what they think. But so I'd message them about like, hey, if you can leave it up, monitor the comments, or just take it down. And people were really respectful of it. They were like, absolutely, I wouldn't have put it up if I thought there was going to be any negative, or I'll turn off comments and stuff. So that was kind of a bit of a wake up for, you can't control how crazy it goes. So you do have to be a little bit, there has to be a little bit of thought go into it. So there's thought, but like on air, like the stories, sharing it, I haven't said anything I regret sharing on air, because it's just like people can relate to it.
Yep.
Yeah. So
and the emotion is slight detour, but the part that I really relate to on the show is when they break you.
Yeah.
When it's like your dad seeing a really message, and like, we don't say this stuff out loud to each other, or something with your kids. Like, that element of it, it just creates a deeper level of connection, I think.
Yeah, people really like that. And Fletch doesn't have emotion, so I've got to carry that burden.
It's lovely to see. It's so nice to see.
And like, I remember the producers went down and recorded a video for my dad on one of my birthdays, and it was a lovely message, but like, it just broke me, because my dad growing up was like a hard man dad. Like, he was in debt up to his eyeballs. He had to work, like, he worked nonstop as a dairy farmer, trying to like feed us all and everything. And as a kid, you don't appreciate it, but when you get a bit older, you're like, that's why he was tired and grumpy. The guy never took a day off. And as he's got older, especially when he had grandkids, he just softened right up. And seeing him emotional now just sets me off every time. And then I remember in this video listening and be like, oh my God, my dad's saying the nicest things. And I was crying, and I was looking at Fletch, and he was almost like that evil kid meme. He was like licking his lips, just like, this is good radio.
Radio gold here.
Yes. Cry, the tears. The tears are what fuel me. Just like, it kind of, for a minute I was like, ah, and then I was like back in the moment, like, oh.
Radio gold.
Yeah,
it was radio gold, yeah.
Hard to put that on an A4 piece of paper to submit
Very hard.
to the radio awards.
Put it on a fridge door, though, I reckon.
Yeah.
Not many more from me. I just want to touch on ratings. Like, 19 years, I imagine, did you follow them closer through the drive show or through the beginning of the breakfast years, or do you still, like, is it quarterly, right? Quarterly ratings come out? Like, do you still sweat on those? Are they still...
Well, it used to be just twice a year, didn't it? And so all the radio stations would be like, win $10,000 now, win $50,000. And so kind of skewed a little bit, whereas now it's 40 weeks of the year, every week. And so it's kind of made consistency the more of the winner, which is good for us. Yeah. But it's hard. It's kind of difficult for people that aren't in radio. It takes a long time for a radio show to establish and build listeners, and even a station, years and years and years. Like, I mean, when I started at The Edge, it wasn't even broadcasting in Auckland. Yeah. A few stations, that, like, we were in Auckland working, and we couldn't even hear the show. And then you'd go to Christchurch, and people would just mob you, and you'd be like, oh, weird, people listen.
Yeah.
And then, we got a frequency in Auckland, I think, was it the year you started?
Yeah, just before
2004. And then by the time we left in 2010?
No.
12?
13. End of 13.
We'd literally just got to number one in the drive and breakfast. So it took like 10...
It was a slog.
It was a slog, 10 years. And then we were like, okay, we're leaving now. We're going to work for the station with the low ratings.
See if we can do this again, eh? Break ourselves, shall we?
Yeah.
But I don't worry too much. I know people and rightly so, because like people's jobs and stuff depend on it, and you've got to be able to sell it, and so the company's got to be able to make money, and that's all there is to base that sort of thing on. But I don't tend to worry about it too much. I know how to read it and how it works, but like you look at the longer trends, and if it's kind of going up, then that's in the right direction. But I try not to stress. If you stress about it, I mean, there's so many factors that are out of your hands. You could be having the best shows of your life, but a natural disaster means everybody's going to be listening to News Talk ZB because they want to know the latest with it. And it was like COVID hit, and we're like, okay, so no one's in cars, and we know a lot of our listening's in cars, and everyone's going to be listening for where we're at, what's happening, you could be, and it was great. But the people that were at that stage, we weren't getting as much ratings wise, but the feedback we were getting from people was like invaluable. Like people were like, oh, it's just nice to be able to listen to you guys, and it's not just all bad news and lockdowns and stuff. It's positive, or it's taking my mind off it. So yeah, I've always liked that a lot more and put a lot more value in it for my own personal achievements and stuff and that sort of thing rather than the ratings.
But they've kind of got back to where they were pre-COVID.
Yeah.
But like it took a big hit because, people, like you said, people just weren't listening in their cars and they were at home.
Looking forward, we've obviously got the 20th party next year. But outside of that, and it might be a question you get a lot, but how long can you go? Like, do you think about what you will do for the second half of your career? Will you stay in radio? Have you thought about it?
Nah.
How long have you got left on your mortgage?
84 years.
Okay, so yes, he will be here.
I will be here forever. No, I don't want to be one of those people that's desperately clinging to it. If the writing's on the wall and it's done, and I definitely don't want to do talk back, and I couldn't do a show by myself, just like introducing old classic rock songs or whatever. So I would happily, like, when it's done, and walk away from it. Move to rural New Zealand, probably Hamilton, actually.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
beautiful. What a beautiful climate.
Out of the Golden Triangle.
Yes, of food production and other transmittable diseases. And
No, that's the chlamydia triangle.
Yes.
No longer exists anymore. I think we broke that.
We broke the triangle. Well, it's just a straight line now between Whangarei and Gisborne. I would easily move to rural New Zealand and I don't know what I'd do. Get a bit of land and try to make some money off the land, or buy out. I always say to my wife, it's an orchard up north. Like, that's the dream. Just to retire on the land and have an orchard where I do the most amount of pottering I can without actually having to do hard work. That's
and
my...
Fletch?
Yeah, I guess while we're enjoying it, because we've always said, like, it would be horrible to do a breakfast show if you didn't enjoy working with the people you do work with.
Oh, it'd be not
especially those hours.
Kill you.
If there was stress, and it'd be horrible. But yeah, just ride it out for as long as we can.
We should, before we wrap up, we should briefly touch on Hayley, because we had her on. Go back and listen to this.
I
if you're
did
at this
listen.
Point. A fantastic episode. Very talented woman. Is she still busy? She's still really
Dude, she loves being busy.
Busy.
I have to tell her to cancel things sometimes. I'm like, you're doing too much.
Yeah, you're allowed to not do something for the day.
So busy.
Well, her marching, like, she'd be like, oh, I've never really had weekends. I'm like, weekends, when you're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, weekends are tantamount. You've got to have them. You've got to have time to chill. And pretend you're going to sleep in and then wake up at 6:30 and be like, fuck! I'm awake now! But yeah, she is very, very, very talented. Like, annoyingly so.
She is.
Yeah.
We played the song she made for your 40th in our episode.
Yeah.
Like, what a tune. Like, she's come out with that and put that much effort into it. That was
Yeah, I
another
know.
one that,
And it's, but she makes it look effortless. Like, yeah, she's...
And
yeah.
literally, sometimes it takes her like 5 or 10 minutes to write one of those things. And you're
Oh,
just like,
yeah, parody
and then
songs are
watching her do it live, you're just like,
Yeah, it's
insane.
phenomenal.
So talented.
Talent.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, an absolute workaholic. But she loves it. Yeah.
thank you so much for. Have you got a few bits and pieces there, Shay?
No.
All right, I'm going to do my mini outro, and I'm going to pass to the outro master. But thank you so much for giving us your time. Coming out of 3 hours radio is probably the last thing you felt like doing a long form pod, but it's been so great retracing your journey, and yeah, we really appreciate you guys coming on. But here's the outro guy.
Fuck yes, so bad. It's actually been a real inspiring conversation and spending time with you two, because the fact that, and I don't mean to use this term, but you've commercialized the friendship essentially, or at least you get to show that friendship off, and that's what Stephen and I are doing. And it's amazing to spend time with one of your best mates, just chatting and being vulnerable and opening up. And the subjects that you talk about, it's almost sort of reshaping masculinity in a way, and we're all of a similar age, and the fact that you can show different sides to your character has a massive impact on a generation. And it's really awesome to know that as well you can look back on where you've been, where you are now, and where you're going to be in the future with pride and with joy, and look back at that body of work and go, fuck, there's some pretty awesome things that we did. And I hope that we can aspire to do that as well, and maybe one day we'll be celebrating our 20th kind of anniversary of doing this pod, or 21st, whatever it is. But it's just so cool. It's so cool to see two guys that have achieved the success they have and to share some time and to share some tips with us. So thanks very much for your time.
Oh, no, our pleasure. Thank you.
You
Thanks for
are
having
better
us.
at the outros.
The outro guy.
Heartfelt.
That was lovely. Thank you.
Heartfelt.
Yeah, Fletch and Vaughan, thanks for your time.
All right. Thank you, Hambassadors.